Hey everyone, welcome back. So this video is going to be kind of short, but it's going to get straight to the point. These are some of the things that my quail love that I know that your quail are going to love too. First things first, we have a plastic tub full of nice, cool earth. They are loving it. Every quail is in this box, so except for the exception of this one.
Quail don't have the ability to be able to maintain and regulate their temperature. So essentially what the dirt allows them to do is to be able to help regulate that a lot better, to be able to help cool them off. But at the same time, if you find that your quail are getting irritated by something and find themselves pecking at their feathers and whatnot, it may indicate that they may have some kind of mite or something, and it's just to be able to help them regulate that.
Second thing are weeds and grass. I like to throw these in here just so it kind of adds something a little bit more to their diet than just pellets. This is just from my front yard, had some growing, decided to go ahead and throw it in. Every time that I do, usually they're immediately on top of it, but since I threw in the the dirt today, they kind of took priority over that. Next thing we have is their feed. They love the crumbles. I've tried pellets with my other quail that I've had. It's just a little bit too big for them. But these pieces are just small enough that they're able to eat them, and they really don't make too much of a mess. This container is actually from a container of Bondo. And I happened to take off the bottom plate of the chick feeder, which is right here, and allowed it to be low enough, and this is just deep enough that even if they do kick it out, it really doesn't go any higher than this. And if some food does get kicked up, these little buzzards like to come around and clean it up. But generally, it doesn't get any higher than that. So one thing that I do also want to point out in regards to the water, they like the watering system that they currently have. I wish it was a little bit better. I'm going to be upgrading it probably in the next month or so just because the summer is coming up. The little floater that I'll show you here in a second, usually this works best under pressure. This particular one that I have right now, they have to actually physically peck on the yellow little bubble thing, whatever you want to call it, little nodule, and that allows water to come out. But I believe that it needs to have a little bit more pressure for it to properly work, but with mine it slowly leaks over time, so it kind of fills up the cup. Another alternative is to use a container. Now this one's about 4 liters, but I also have one of these trays here that I used to use, but I found that they're making more of a mess with water. But it is also an additional option where basically you can use this down at the bottom of this, and as the water comes down, I've actually made several holes going throughout the whole container, and as the water rises, and once the water reaches that specific level, obviously this one is kind of off because it was for something different, it automatically fills up every single time. The only downside with this one is that every time that you have to fill it up, you have to have a firm hand on this and make sure that it doesn't spill. But it works great if you need it. Quail are very particular about their water. I've had this, and the water gets really, really murky, and they really don't like to drink it too much when it's dirty and murky. Chickens are the complete opposite. They do not care whatsoever how the water is. It could be complete mud. There could be poop in it, whatever. I know it's disgusting. But quail, they are more particular to cleaner water. I do have a watering dish right here that they do like to go ahead and step on. It's another way for them to be able to cool off, and I just filled it up right now, so they like to drink out of it. But they like to go ahead and step in here with their feet, and it's another way for them to be able to cool down. Chickens do the exact same thing. They'll go ahead and step in their water, and that's why their water gets all dirty and murky. But this is another way for them to cool down during the summertime. Another option are one of these cups. This one's an actual automatic floater. So as the water fills up, kind of like the same concept as that watering device, as this little bobber right here, As the water fills up, this thing goes up and down, and so it usually stops. But if the water does not have enough pressure, I believe it needs at least 10 pounds of water pressure going into that system, it's just going to continually leak, and you're going to drain a whole gallon easy a day, and they're not even going to drink that. This particular system that I'm using now with the other variation, this one I find hasn't leaked on me as much. They eventually do get down to the bottom of it, and so water will kind of slowly fill in, but they don't really like to peck on it very much until it gets to the very bottom. But as you can see, it does fill up and eventually can overflow, but that's only if they're constantly pecking on it, but it never gets that high. This one, I don't see any kind of issues with it. For my chickens, I actually have the exact same system, and I apologize for the mess, but I've got a bucket here where it eventually flows down in here, and they have the same kind of watering system. But this one doesn't leak just because there's enough pressure that it goes in and it doesn't constantly keep leaking. In here, I actually have some mealworms. I like to give these to the quail as a treat sometimes. It's just super packed with protein. These little buggers reproduce like crazy. On Amazon, there's some places where you can be able to get some of these. Actually, it's more like 1,000 of them for about $12 to $15. But I like to go ahead and pick out all these particular worms right here, and then I'll go ahead and throw it in their feeder and let them kind of forage for it, and let them eat that. And I'll probably grab like 50 of them. And most of them will go to about 4 quail instead of all 7 of them. So those little orange things that you're seeing there are actually older carrots. These are some of the carrots that we haven't used, and they've just been sitting in the fridge. The mealworms don't really need very much. They just need some kind of substrate. A really good one to be able to use are oats, but I also find that they do like to have wheat also in there, so they've been mixing this up a lot, so it's just been kind of a mess. But basically the idea behind the carrot is that it provides them with an actual food source, as you can see. They've devoured this carrot, but also provides them with a water source, so you don't actually need to have a watering device in here. Some of these got a little too old, and so they died. So I'll need to go ahead and clean that out. But yeah, these things usually take about a month to go from larvae into beetles, and then after that they'll produce more little beetles, and that takes about another few weeks or so. But it's just another fun little treat that I can give to them and to make them happier. Yeah, they like their worms. You can hear him talking to the hens. One other thing that I did want to add before I go ahead and close, now that summertime is coming up, some of these things are going to be kind of important that you do keep up to date and that you keep on top of. If you have an air-conditioned room for them, great, that's going to be probably the best thing for them. Otherwise, if you use a swamp cooler, that is also a great additional option. If you can get one that can attach to your hose so that way it's constantly filling up the well, that's going to probably be one of the better options for them too if you're going to keep them outside. Otherwise, if you have any other questions or have anything that you'd like to comment about this video, go ahead and drop it down in the comment section below. Otherwise, like and subscribe.